Well, here we are. After perhaps the best win that we've had all season and might be the best win that we've had in a long time. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. Our Steelers, David, they might be legit. They very well might be legit. What do you think?
I think that they might be. From my perspective, they might be legit. But I think that you had a bit of a better perspective than I did this week because you were there. So what do you think?
Yes. So, being at the game, first off, I'll tell you this. Nothing can prepare you to know how many Steelers fans were actually there. We took the metro, and the entire DC metro was just completely filled with Steelers fans, and it was absolutely ridiculous. So that was awesome, walking in there. And the other funny thing too was that the parking lot attendants were also half of them were also Steelers fans. So anytime we would walk by the parking lot attendants, they were giving us fist pumps and stuff like that. So it was just great. We got in there, and then there was a guy who was a Commanders fan. He had some Redskins stuff on, so you could tell he's been a fan for a long time. And he was very vocal, to say the least. He would yell. He would start the defense chants, like you do at a sporting event. But the problem is, our entire section was full of Steelers fans, so nobody actually joined in on his defense chants. So that was an interesting little thing. And then when the Commanders had the ball, he would yell, "Run the ball! Run the ball! Run the ball! Run the ball!" The entire time they had the ball, even if it was 3rd and 15, "Run the ball! Run the ball! Run the ball!" The entire time. Not even a single waking moment. Even during TV timeouts, he would just continue to yell. And I will say I got a little bit annoyed, but I mean, it was in good fun. He wasn't being mean or being nasty otherwise. He was just really loud, and he was happy to be there. And frankly, I was happy to be there too. One more big shout out to Joseph Kersey's dad, Papa Kersey, for getting us those tickets. We appreciate you just investing in us and allowing us to go to that game. That was pretty awesome. Also had a great day with Joe as well. That was fun to see him. Hadn't seen him in a long time. And then as far as the game actually went, I mean, like I said, I would say there was probably 50-50 Steelers fans there. There was so many terrible towels everywhere. And another funny thing about it was the Commanders, they gave out these burgundy towels in hopes to get their fans on a similar level as the Steelers fans. And they put it up on the video board and said, "All right, Commanders fans, wave your towels." And it went so wrong because all you could see through the entire massive FedEx field was just these terrible towels waving all over the place. You couldn't even tell that the Commanders had towels. It was awesome.
That's awesome. That's so awesome that did not work and that our towels were still waving.
Oh, it did. It backfired really bad for them. It did not go well for them.
That's awesome.
Well, so obviously we have a couple of different perspectives on this week. I was at the game. I got my nice view looking straight down the field. It was great. I love that because, again, I get to see the way that the secondaries are moved. I mean, we played one high safety the entire time, and so did the Commanders too, actually. I can't remember a single time that they had a one-on-one anywhere pretty much the entire game. And we'll talk about this later, undoubtedly, but I think that is going to be really, really important moving forward, seeing as how Mike Williams is going to slot into this, because we saw that at the very end of the game, how that played a big part into what happened. But as far as you can tell, where do you kind of want to start with this game? Because, I mean, there's pretty much a lot of places to start. I honestly think we can kind of start at the beginning with the George Pickens touchdown, because that was ridiculous. It was utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, no, I say I like it. I like starting, just chronologically, and I think that it was a great drive that we put together early, and I was, loving it. I was loving where the offense was rolling. We had some good run plays, good pass plays, And, I mean, yeah, that catch, just another insane catch by him. And I think he's best when he doesn't have to run after the catch. So it was a perfect catch. It was a perfect way to start the game. And up until the fake punt, we really rode that momentum. Our defense was shutting them down. Patrick, okay, we've said a lot of things about Patrick Queen. I think I've been a little more positive on him, but still, you know, he was awesome on Sunday. He lit it up, and I was loving it. Yeah, it was one of the first drive. He had a nice tackle for loss on Austin Eckler, which was just pretty. And then Cam Hayward had a sack also, which was awesome. We in the first half had the majority of the momentum. I don't know. I mean, that's what it felt like watching from the TV. I don't know if it was like that in the stadium.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I think, okay, let's talk about the fake punt, because I don't know what you think about it. I have my own opinion on it. Why don't you tell me what you think about that fake punt?
So initially, I wasn't a huge fan just because we were at the 15, but then my dad, we were texting about it, and he was saying that that it was like a hot read play. Like, that was not a play call. That was, you see that, he's open, go for it. And I like it. I like trying to take advantage of something that's wide open like that. And yeah, you know, it backfired. And obviously, let's not do that every week. But I think that, you know, you have all the momentum. That guy's wide open. He's had a few picks in his career. It's fairly reasonable to say that James Pierre can catch this lofted ball right into his hands. I think that it worked to perfection besides the drop. So at first I was a little bit like, I don't really know if I like that. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, yeah, I like it. Trying to keep momentum. It's there. Keep our offense going the way it was going. So I liked it. It was just unfortunate that it was just a horrible drop. But what did you think?
I think pretty much the same thing, and I really never thought negatively of it, to be honest, because it worked. I mean, he was by himself. He had the first down, and all he had to do was do something that an average American can do and catch the football. I mean, it was not a bad throw by Killebrew. Killebrew put it right on his chest. There wasn't really anything that he had to do moving laterally to get it, and he just didn't catch it. So people were bashing Mike Tomlin for calling that play. They're like, you know, you can't be doing that on your own 15-yard line when you're winning. You know, you can't do it with James Pierre over there. And it's like, okay, hold up a second. You can't throw George Pickens out there on special teams, because then people are going to get a little suspicious. And it's like, okay, maybe we're not going to keep our gunner, or keep the gunner over there by himself. You know, if you keep James Pierre over there, then nobody's going to think twice about it. And the thing that I realized with listening to the press conference from Tomlin, as well as a testimonial from James Pierre this week, is that Pierre, like, they practiced that play pretty much all week, and Pierre caught it every single time that they tried it, and then the one time when they actually run it in the game, then he drops it. So I think Pierre understands, like, he was the weak link in that, and that he was the only reason that play didn't work. And if it did work, it's probably a 60-yard gain and a chance to really probably go up 14-0 with the Commanders really having done nothing on offense. So I love the play call, and I think it just boils down to you got to catch the ball.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that the touchdown after, it really is just like nothing you can do about it. You know, they get the ball from the 15. It's like kind of an expected thing to happen after a fake punt like that. But then, you know, we evened it right back out with the muffled punt, and then we ended up getting that and scoring, which was awesome. And I think that's really, I mean, even though I think we lost the turnover battle.
Yes.
Yes, we did. I think that that's really the key with this team. Like, I think we're a lot better than we have been in a few years. But if we can just stay even, I think it used to be we had to win the turnover battle. But we obviously saw that we lost it, we still won. But if we can keep the turnover battle even, like, we went right back up 7 like we were right before that. So I like the aggressiveness. I think we can be more aggressive now because of the team we have versus latter years. What did you think of kind of the closing of the second half? Because I think that's when the closing of the first half, because that's when the Commanders, it seemed, started to pick up a little bit of speed and momentum.
That was really their best sustained drive over the course of the first half. And I mean, it looked really easy for them. I mean, you got to give your credit to Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's a good player, and Austin Eckler had an okay day in the absence of Brian Robinson. So I think that was kind of the drive where they finally got their feet under them. Obviously, they had a short field after the fake punts, and then that was kind of the first opportunity that the Commanders had to really see a stretched out field and kind of go the length of it, and they really did a good job. And honestly, it was a little bit concerning, but again, I think you kind of have to tip your cap to statistically the third best offense in the league because they can do that. That's something that they are capable of doing, and it's obvious that they've done that pretty much all season long. So it makes a little bit of sense to have a little bit of worry about the defense in that regard, but at the same time, I think you have to give them a lot of credit for some of the big plays that they did make. Minka had two great plays on some third downs. One was an open field tackle that would have gone for a first down to get them into field goal range, and another one was a really nice pass breakup as well. So again, we keep talking about Minka, but those plays that they're not going to show up on the highlight reel, but they're big plays that mean a lot in the grand scheme of the game. So I can't be too upset with the defense, whether on that drive or in the entirety of the game as a whole. So I honestly think that our defense did really well overall because Daniels only had 202 yards in the game. They only rushed for 60 yards in the game, and we held them. I mean, they scored some points, but we held them. And I think that is the most important thing is if you're holding them to field goals at times, which we did, then, I mean, if we're scoring 28 points a game, like you said just a moment ago, we can win those types of games now.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that I completely agree. I couldn't have been happier with our defense, making a lot of plays. Like, yeah, they led up 27 points, but I just think that as a whole, it was a holistically good defense. And again, like what you pointed out, statistically top three offense, that was a great defense against the top three offense. And I don't really have many complaints towards the defense. There was, Pickens and McLaurin both had crazy sideline catches. It was like McLaurin got one, and then Pickens was like, all right, my turn. And it was awesome. But yeah, I love the defense. I think that one thing, and this might be TJ Watt's role this year, is that TJ Watt is impacting the game. I think that he hasn't gotten the stats like the sacks or anything, but, they've got two or three guys. They got a guy chipping him. They got two guys on him. Like, that leaves all these other guys open. So he is impacting this game. And not to get ahead, but when it was 27-21, it was an obvious holding call in the end zone, which should have been a safety, 2 points, our ball. I'm still happy with the outcome. But that's huge. Like, that's a huge play to force that. And even if that's not a holding, it's probably a sack. So, right. And the play after that, he almost had a sack.
Yeah.
So I think that, Hayward ended up having 2 sacks. Highsmith got a lot of pressure. Unfortunately, though, he did receive the injury. But I think that, this team, the defense looks great. Offensively, like, again, had its ups and downs, but really was strong towards the end. And a question I have for you, I guess it's not really a question, but just your thoughts. One of my dad's friends was telling him, and I agree with this, is like, so the Commanders go right down the field and score a touchdown. It's 24-14. That's a death sentence the past 3 years.
Right.
That's like, all right, wrap it up. We like who was it? Matt Canada or Mike Tomlin was like, we aren't meant for comebacks. It was like, all right, wrap it up. And this year, I mean, they proved it that it's different. They were down 10 and we ended up winning. So what did you think of that whole just like second half, how it unfolded?
Well, it's funny because right before the second half started, Joseph leaned over to me and said, how's your heart rate? And I'm like, it's not really that bad. I don't really, my heart rate wasn't very high at that point. And then that, bomb of a first play, of the was that the first play of the second half? I think it was.
I think it was. It was crazy.
50 yards down the field. After that, he turns over to me. He's like, well, how's your heart rate now? And I was like, yeah, it's getting up there a little bit. But if this would have been last year, like, my heart would have been pumping out of my chest because I don't think that we could have scored 14 points in the second half.
Right.
Like, that is something that I don't think we were capable of doing the last couple of years. And I really never felt nervous. I don't know, even when Warren fumbled at the 1 yard line, like, even then I didn't feel super nervous, which just makes no sense. But Russ just, he exudes a sort of confidence that bleeds into the people around him, not only on the field, but off the field, because I'm sitting up there in, section 423, and I'm feeling all the confidence in the world that after they kept them pinned back into the end zone, the punt goes up, and they're at their own 40, which, again, is great field position. But even with Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph, I don't know how much confidence I would have had at our own 40-yard line to go down and score an actual touchdown. If it was a 2-point game, that's a little different. But when you need a touchdown in that circumstance, I felt a lot of confidence, and it showed with the Mike Williams touchdown, his only target of the game. Can you believe that?
Well, and the crazy thing about that is that he was only in because Calvin Austin was out getting concussion protocol tested. And so, like, if Calvin Austin's in, no way that ball gets thrown to him. It's just crazy to think about how that works. But, yeah, I'd agree. I feel like it was different. Like, when they scored and went up 24-14, I was like, all right, like, answer. Like, let's answer. And then we did. They went and kicked 2 field goals. And I think that I'll say my heart rate did get up a little bit after the Jaylen Warren fumble. It was nice because we were still, like, they were back in their own, like, 20 or 15. But, it's the most unfortunate thing when the rules analyst agrees, oh, yeah, this is perfect. You were at the game. Okay, so the rules analyst, I'm pretty sure it's Gene Steratore, because I'm pretty sure he's the CBS guy. But Jaylen Warren, they were debating, like, Charles Davis, I think Ian Eagle was with him, but they were all like, now, should this have been blown dead? Like, was his forward momentum stopped, like, in a normal play? And the rules analyst was like, I think they let this one go a little too long. He was like, I think with the way they've been playing the game, the whistle should have been blown a second or two earlier. And I was just like, that's so interesting, because we always feel like they blow it too early for Najee, and then he's still going. And then for the little guy, Jaylen Warren, they're like, no, let's let the entire team tackle him. Like, it was funny and unfortunate to see, but yeah. And then being able to get the ball right back, I'd say the one play where I was stressing the most was that Mike Williams touchdown, where I was like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe we're not kicking a field goal here. Like, this is so new. But yeah, it was one of those games where just a lot was going on, a lot of craziness, and we found a way to win, which I think is very encouraging.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing, too, is I had no idea that Warren even fumbled. I couldn't see it. I didn't know what happened, and then the refs are, like, pointing the other way, and me and Joseph are like, what? Like, what's the deal? And then the other funny thing, too, is we never saw a replay. We knew that they were reviewing it, but they never showed a replay in the stadium, so we had no idea what was happening. We didn't even know what to think because they didn't show anything.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe they didn't. Because, I saw it on TV when Jeremy Chin just kind of came up with it. But yeah, on replay, it was so close to being on the ground. But yeah, that was crazy. I kind of was like, I was nervous after that because I was like, oh my gosh, like, that was our chance. We were at the 1 yard line. I mean, holy cow. We talked about Mike Williams last week, and we both just were kind of like, we'll see. I mean, I think is a better catch than people will give it credit for. The way he tracked that ball down, like, his head went all the way, like, around his body, like, to follow that thing, and it landed right where it needed to, and he just tracked that thing. That was beautiful, and I was shocked. I was shocked that, like, when he threw it, I was like, oh gosh, like, is he just trying to throw that thing away? And then he was there, and he caught it, and I was like, oh, like, my gosh, like, we're going to have the lead. And then I was nervous to see what our defense would do, and that's a whole story in and of itself, that the last drive the Commanders had, was a crazy ending. So I guess you didn't see all the technical lines on the screen. What did you think when Zach Ertz caught the ball? Did you think he got the first down?
Oh, I think, like, I took a video of it, actually. There's a video on my phone, and the entire time I'm just yelling, he's short, he's short, he's short. I had no idea what to think. Honestly, when they were showing it in-house, my initial thoughts were, I think that it's going to stand simply because of what it was called on the field. However, I think the spot was terrible, and I think it was probably 6 inches. Personally, I think he was short because he was coming back towards the ball, and he didn't move forward after he was tackled. He didn't get to reach out towards the pylon after he was tackled. Whoever the two guys were, probably was Minka and somebody else, they combined for that tackle, and Ertz was completely stopped. He didn't move a muscle forward. So that's what I was thinking. Okay, he's coming back towards the ball, and then if he doesn't go forward at all any farther, I don't think that they had any way to call that a first down, and they didn't. So, I mean, I was fairly confident in-house, but, I mean, it was one of those coin flip. I have no idea what the heck I don't know what to think.
Yeah. No, it was nice, being able to see the replays, because I was watching it with some of my friends, and they were like, oh, I don't know, like, this is crazy, and I was like, I don't think he got it. And off the replays, like, you're right, like, his knee was down right when he caught the ball, so before he, like, did that turn, he was down because they had touched him, and, like, the spot was way closer than where they actually put it, but, like, it was still short, and, like, they showed the lines and stuff, and it was, like, inches. I mean, it was crazy, and so that was wild, and then the way the game actually ended was crazy. Like, I mean, from my perspective, I was sitting down the whole time, and I thought we were going to punt, and then the offense comes back out, so I stand up. I'm like, oh, my gosh. So I'm standing up, and I'm like, are they just going to get him to jump? I didn't think they were. I thought they were going to try and get a first down. So I was locked in, ready to go, and then they actually jumped, and I was like, oh. I was like, okay. I was like, all right, it's over. Like, that's it. And it was such just like a relieving thing to be like, oh, he just jumped. We don't even have to do a play. That's perfect.
Well, the funny thing is, so if you know anything about Joseph and his dad when they go to sporting events, Joseph's dad, he likes to get out of there early. He likes to beat traffic. And so we were thinking about leaving earlier because there was a little bit of sprinkles coming out from the sky, and we're like, oh, I don't know. But Joseph's like, no, we got to stay. We got to stay. And so when Ertz was deemed short of the line to gain, we started to leave. And so I was thinking, okay, they still have 3 timeouts. Like, the game technically isn't over, but in my mind, I'm like, if they ended up winning this one, then I would be upset and I wouldn't want to see that in person. And we get outside of the stadium and we hear this roar. And I'm thinking to myself, I know a Steelers fan roar. I know Steelers Nation is very distinct. And I was like, we got the game. Something good happened there. And then I look on my phone, and then the Gamecast updates, and it was like neutral zone infraction. I'm thinking, what the heck? They actually lined up to go for it? What is going on? So I didn't get to experience that in person, but I still had a very unique experience of that, hearing the roar of the stadium, which, again, this is in Washington. This is not in Pittsburgh. I'm outside of the stadium, and I could hear just how loud it was after they jumped off. So, I mean, it was something else. And, I mean, a very anticlimactic way to end a pretty incredible game. Honestly, probably the best game of this last week. And, I mean, we're walking away with it with now a quality win. And I don't think any of this is a knock on the Commanders. I think the Commanders are truly a good team based on what we saw on Sunday, and I think that they have a good shot. I mean, they're playing tonight against the Eagles, actually.
That's true.
So I think the Commanders, this is a quality win for the Steelers, and it's a very important quality win, I think. Had they lost, I don't think I would have been upset, but the fact that they won makes me very excited for the prospect of the several games that we have left.
I completely agree. I genuinely don't think we've beaten a team. It has been maybe since 2018, honestly, since we've beaten a team. I feel like of this caliber, that's like, wow, that's a solid win. I feel like the past 2 years, it's been, we beat the mediocre teams or below average teams, and then we get crushed by the really good teams. And then 2020, we obviously know what happened there. It's refreshing to be like, wow, like we just actually won a game against one of the best teams in the league. And so it's very exciting and very hopeful, which I feel like we haven't had in a while.
Yeah. And it kind of gets us prepped for a really important week coming up against the Ravens. And I was thinking about this a little bit too. Who better to simulate Lamar Jackson than Jaden Daniels? Very similar type of runner, a thrower of the football. Is Jaden Daniels Lamar? No, but like we set the edge all game long. Daniels didn't really have any opportunity to run at all this week, and we held him in check with his legs. So, and we always play Lamar really well for some reason. So this is a good opportunity coming into this Ravens week. What are your very initial thoughts on this game? Because honestly, this game could determine who wins the AFC North eventually.
So it's interesting that you phrase it like that, because I was going to say that I think this is like a must-win game. Like, home, like, it'd be one thing if we were at Baltimore. It's like, okay, I think that it is a necessity that we split with Baltimore this year. And I think that, obviously home field advantage. So I'd say this is a must-win. Like, we really just proved ourselves. I think we got to do it again. And I think we're riding high on momentum. I think I'm interested to see how these two teams will. I don't really know how these guys are gonna play each other, because I feel like the Ravens have given up so much points. Like, they've given up so many points, and so I'm like, okay, well, our offense could have a great game, but their defense still isn't like bad, and their offense is just insane. And so I'm like, how will our defense hold up against that? Though the running backs are not the same as the one running back in Baltimore, our run defense did do really good. So I don't really know. It'll be interesting to see, but I'd say it's a must-win. We always keep Lamar in check. Like, we always are able to do our thing, but it'll be interesting to see, because he's never had a running back like Derrick Henry.
That is true. And I have some stats written down about the two of them because, it's just completely and utterly ridiculous what they're doing. Derrick Henry already has over 1,100 rushing yards, and he is averaging 6.1 yards a carry this season. Lamar has 2,600 passing yards, a 69.1 completion percentage, 24 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. That's ridiculous. That is utterly ridiculous.
I know I've been very vocal about saying he shouldn't have won MVP last year. It hates me to say this, but he is on track to win MVP this year. And if he doesn't win, guess who's number 2? Derrick Henry. So it's daunting for sure. It's scary. It's like, if you don't control these guys, we're going to get run out of town. So, but I think we can do it. I'm going to be honest. I think we can stop these guys. I think we can play to their run game, and I think we can shut it down. What are your thoughts?
So, here's my thought. I think that this might be one of the most emotional Ravens-Steelers games in recent memory, simply because Patrick Queen is the ultimate snake from the Ravens' perspective. This is his first crack at the Ravens ever. And he has been very vocal in saying that he loves Pittsburgh. The whole thing about him leaving Baltimore, and his Baltimore teammates had said, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And Patrick Queen has come back and said, oh yeah, it's a lot greener here in Pittsburgh. And I love that. And you can tell he loves being in Pittsburgh. And his game this last week against the Commanders, I think this was kind of his preparation. He's this raging bull who's just kind of scratching his claws against the gravel, and he's getting ready to go against this Ravens team. He wants to make a statement this game. Maybe not as much as the future game that will be in Baltimore, but this is the first AFC North matchup that the Steelers are going to have this season, which for it to happen in Week 11 is crazy to think about. And there are a lot of people on the Steelers that this is their first christening into AFC North football. It might be a rude awakening for some of these guys, but it also might be an opportunity for some of these guys to say, okay, it's my time to rise to the occasion. I think about guys like, Beanie Bishop, who really didn't do a whole lot this last week with Cam Sutton being back in the mix. Obviously, Joey Porter Jr. had a nice game against the Ravens last year, but there are a lot of really young guys. I mean, even thinking about our offensive line with guys like Zach Frazier, who are going to be facing up against the Ravens pass rushers for the first time in their career. I mean, this is a big deal. This is a huge game, and it is going to go one of two ways, in my opinion. It's going to be a one-score Steelers win, or it's going to be a Ravens blowout win. There is no in-between, in my opinion.
I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. I think that if we win, it's going to... Well, actually, that'll go into my prediction. But I guess I'll give my prediction now. But yes, I do think if we lose, it'll be a blowout. It'll be by more than 14 points. I think we're going to win. I think that we got the home crowd on our side. We're going to have Renegade at some point, and we got an offense that can score when they need to, and even when they can put games away. They put a game away this week, so very rare, very new. I trust our run game. I think that even when I want to go back to 2020 when it was 5-0 Steelers versus 5-0 Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry didn't really do all too much that game. And that was before he got hurt in 2020. That was going to be his best year. So I think that we can control him, and we've proven to control Lamar before. And I think that they've been really doing good on the read option. It'll be interesting. And look, kind of what you said about Jaden Daniels being prep. Every single read option, Watt was hitting Jaden Daniels. I think we're going to see the exact same thing. I don't think Lamar is going to be able to go anywhere. I think they're going to say, beat us with Derrick. Beat us with just Derrick. We're not going to let you run with Lamar. And I like that. So I think that it's going to be high scoring, and I think we're going to lose. Sorry, what? No. Oh my goodness. I think we're going to win 31-28.
Wow. Okay. So big shootout win. What do you think about Preston Smith in this game? Because he had a really nice game against the Commanders, and especially now with Alex Highsmith being out and with a run-first Ravens offense, Preston Smith is going to get a lot of reps this week, and he might be integral to our success.
I love him. I think I loved him this week against Washington, and I've seen some sound bites. It sounds like he's just super happy to be in Pittsburgh. I mean, that seems to be the case right now. I think everybody's happy to be in Pittsburgh. But I love him. I think that it's so unfortunate that we're losing Highsmith, but I mean, very fortunate that we traded for Preston Smith at just the right time. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a good game. I think that he could have a similar game as Highsmith does with Watt on the other side. So I'm excited to see this D-line and how they perform, and especially Patrick Queen. I mean, he better be running on fire.
Yeah. And here's the other thing about the Ravens is that their secondary is just really not good this year. And it's really strange because you think about the Ravens with their hard-hitting secondaries of the historical matchup between the Ravens and Steelers. Marlon Humphrey has 4 interceptions, but Kyle Hamilton is kind of nursing a leg injury now. And even when he's healthy, he hasn't been great, honestly. So this is a secondary that Russ is going to have a chance to kind of pick apart. And I want to go back to what I was going to talk about with Mike Williams. Now you have an option when teams play a one-high safety against you. You have George Pickens on one side, Mike Williams on another side. The safety has to pick. There's nothing that these secondaries can do other than pick which one that they're going to go after. And if they continue to pick on Pickens, then Mike Williams is going to have opportunities like he had this last week. So this is a really interesting thing now with 2 really deep threats, 2 guys that are just really waiting for those one-on-one matchups. And maybe it forces the Ravens to play 2 high safeties. Have you ever, did you think about that? Because And if they do, if they play two high safeties, then that opens up the running game. That means that the middle isn't as clogged up, which gives an opportunity for us to possess the ball with Najee and with Jaylen Warren, and maybe win the time of possession, which they did this last week against the Commanders by a very wide margin. So this game could go a whole lot of different ways. What's your game plan, honestly? Because you're very optimistic about our offense. What's the game plan to beat this Ravens team?
Well, I think I like how our offensive scheme has been working. I think you run them down to set the pass up. And I know that Najee came out of the game towards the end a little bit, but I've heard reports that he's healthy. So I say, we keep running him. We keep running Cordell Patterson out of the middle. Jaylen Warren looks like he looked last year. And so I think, you run him towards the outsides. I think we have a trio tandem of those guys just running them into submission because I think that Russell Wilson's best under play action, and I think we use that more. And I think we should use Mike Williams more on the outside with Pickens, and then you've got Muth and Austin in the middle. And I think that if they want to run two high safeties, we can keep Williams and Pickens, keep those guys occupied with them too, and just pick the middle apart with play action. So I would love it just starting off ground and pound, run these guys into submission.
What's the key for the defense this week? Obviously, with probably the best offense, what's the key to surviving defensively? Because I don't think that you can say that we can thrive defensively this week. I think this is one of those where you kind of got to scratch and claw and just find a way to give up less points than you score this week.
I think, honestly, it's make Derrick Henry a non-factor. It's if you can make him not an X-factor in this game, I think we'll win because we've beaten the Ravens. We beat the Ravens last year. They were 13-4, and we beat them last year at their peak, when they were just winning all these games and with Kenny Pickett. So if we can negate the addition of Derrick Henry, I think we can beat them.
Derrick Henry has played the Steelers 3 times. Twice he got a normal workload of carries, and both times he had 75 yards.
Okay.
So he has never rushed for effectively more or less than 75 yards against the Steelers. And that was with the Titans. And I wonder how much Arthur Smith is going to play into the defensive prep this week, knowing
that's true.
Derrick Henry's tendencies, knowing how Derrick Henry was used. I mean, he was the guy that used him. That was the type of thing that they did. And the Ravens are more committed to being on the ground this year than maybe any other year, which is crazy to think about because the Ravens have always been a run-first team. Now you have arguably the best, he is the best running back in the league right now. I think Arthur Smith has a play in the defensive planning this week. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think you make a good point. I didn't even think about that, but I think he absolutely should. And I hope that he's able to just be here's all the secrets, and we're able to shut him down because of it.
That would be cool. All right, so you said a 31-28 victory.
I did.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. I was going to do this regardless. Since you are a game up on me in our predictions, I'm going to flip a coin and tell you which prediction I'm going to have.
Oh, wow.
All right, here's my coin flip. Oh, man. All right, so unfortunately, the Ravens are going to win this one by a score of 37-24. That is my official prediction. My coin landed on tails. So if it had landed on heads, then I would have said a close Steelers win. But I'm now saying a Ravens win. I got to get back up on you in the predictions. So like I said, it could go one of two ways. I don't think it can go any other way. It's either a close Steelers win or a big Ravens win.
I completely agree. Hopefully it's the former. But yeah, I completely agree. What are our records?
I threw it up on the Instagram a couple of days ago. So our guests are 1-2.
Okay.
JC was the only one to predict correctly, which, we've had 3 games and the Steelers have won all of them. So JC was the only one to predict the Steelers win. I think that you are, so what are we? The Steelers are 7-2, right? So we got 9 games. You are 4-5, and I think I'm 3-6.
Okay. I have an inkling of who the Ravens person selected to win.
What do you think? That episode will be up tomorrow. What do you think that he said?
They gotta pick the Ravens. I don't know who you interviewed, which is interesting, but they gotta pick the Ravens. I mean, I'd be shocked if they picked the Steelers.
Well, here's a little spoiler for that Outside Perspective episode. He did pick the Steelers.
Oh my goodness!
So you'll have to listen. You'll have to listen to that episode. He also had a pretty incredible take that I think you would be blown away by it. So please go listen to this episode. It is one of the goofiest ones you'll ever listen to. That'll be up, I think, tomorrow. Well, let's see. So this one will be up. Yeah, that one will be up very soon. So make sure you go listen to the Ravens Outside Perspective episode. And again, we will be back here after this Ravens week. This episode was a little shorter, but I think next week, depending on what happens, could be one of our longer episodes because of just the simple implications of it.
Oh, without a doubt. I completely agree, and it'll be interesting. I'm excited. Now I'm just waiting for this Outside Perspective to drop because I want to hear what this guy's got to say, but it's the most exciting week for a Steeler fan or Ravens fan, honestly, so it's the regular season Super Bowl, so I'm ready to go.
Yes, a lot of good games this week, but I don't think any better than Ravens Steelers. And as always, the Boardman Black and Gold podcast is sponsored by Zeka Enterprises. And with Veterans Day being this week, I wanted to say a very special thing because Zeka Enterprises is a veteran-owned business. And that is something that we as Steelers fans support. That is something that we as people support. It was very cool to be in Washington with the Veterans Day being on Monday straight after that Sunday game because they had the full 100-yard flag on the field before the game. They had some helicopters flying over. They had they recognized a lot of military members, one of which was like the second longest prisoner of war in American history, which was,
oh my goodness,
it was crazy. I mean, it was so cool to be in Washington for that, but I do want to draw attention to the fact that Zeka Enterprises is a veteran-owned business and that it is working in northwestern Pennsylvania to craft furniture solutions. So once again, a huge thank you to Zeka Enterprises as our sponsor. And a big week here for the Steelers, a big chance to almost put the Ravens away. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff left, but if you can get a game up on the Ravens, you can go into Baltimore later this season and think to yourself, okay, we've already got our one. If we get this one, then that's it. We win the North pretty much. So this is a really good opportunity for the Steelers, and hopefully we will be coming back after a Here We Go Steelers win after this Week 11 game. David, anything else?
No, yeah. Thank you to all the veterans. I'm sure that being there must have been awesome. And that just sounds, the helicopters, the 100-yard flag sounds amazing. I love it. But yeah, hopefully the energy will be be similar to what you experienced, but not even more at home.
Yes. The get-in price for this game is like $300. So if you wanted to sit at the top of the stadium and not even have a seat, $300 minimum to get into the stadium.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So hopefully,
I like it.
Hopefully it's going to be a rowdy bunch on Sunday at 1 o'clock against the Ravens. And again, we will be looking for a win, and we'll be back next week. Maybe some high spirits, maybe some low spirits. We will see. The Steelers are the telltale on this week. We could be really happy next week, or we could be maybe not as happy. So come back next week. Make sure you check out that Outside Perspective episode that'll be up very soon. This is Zane and David on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.